Welcome back to the Sane Asylum, my dear patients. I'm thinking of moving to Canada. The thought of moving to Canada hasn't been a thought until this recent year, only because as I get older, I begin to realize, what am I going to do when both of my parents are gone? I've always dreamt of going to Canada. You know, when you're a kid, when you're 9 or 10, I remember as a kid, I would, oh my God, when I'm an adult, I'm going to move to Hollywood. I'm going to, move to I'm going to move to New York City. You know what I mean? Hey, I'm walking here, right? And then when you get older, you realize, wait, it's expensive. I don't want to die from heat exhaustion. I don't want to die in a wildfire. Meeting celebrities are cool, but prices are high. There's earthquakes. Everything's overpriced. There's too many people, and I have dogs. There's not a lot of houses that are affordable. There's a lot of crime. And then when you go to New York, it's more of the same. Whereas if you want to live in New York City, you have to live in the city, and there's not a lot of houses in the city that has, a big backyard, because I have dogs. I have two big dogs. The point is that I'm moving to Canada. Not I'm moving to Canada today or tomorrow, but it's on my bucket list. It's one of my dreams that I'm thinking of moving to Canada. The only way that I am moving to Canada is either both of my parents are long and gone. I am financially independent that I can afford, to move to Canada. And if I have a partner with me. Because moving to Canada is a big thing. I have thought about, what area I'm moving to Canada. I'm more focused on, I don't know what you would call it. I'm not really that educated on, Northwest and South. This is the education school system. So if this is North, never eat soggy waffles. Yeah, I think it's the West. I'm more centered towards the North and the West side of Canada because I live in Tacoma, Washington right now. Okay, I'm filming on my phone, so I'm in Tacoma right here. And this is Canada, so you could imagine it's only a couple hours away. And with Canada, since this is Washington, I'm like around here somewhere in Tacoma. I'm thinking of Alberta or the British Columbia, since it's only across the border, only gonna be a couple minutes away. Maybe around this area too. I'm definitely not doing that because Washington is, you gotta go bloop, and that'll probably take, more than 24 hours to get there. Northern Canada, I'm not, because that's where it gets super cold. I'm thinking, and also when I say north, this is in the future of me editing the video. I know that I was completely wrong here, but in my perspective, I am kind of going north, but the northern part of Canada I do not want. I'm thinking of the western part, maybe British or Alberta. And then Saskatchewan, I don't know how you pronounce that. Probably not. So either these two I'm moving to. And for me, when I move, I don't want to go on an airplane because I have two dogs. I'm keeping my dogs. It's just how it is. And two, I don't like moving because I lived in Washington for 20 years of my life, and then for 2 years I lived in Tennessee. And when me and my parents moved to Tennessee, we drove for it was almost 7 days straight in a car. 7 days straight. And then we moved back to Washington 2 years later, doing the same thing. I never want to sleep in a car for 6 days in a row. I'm never doing that again. We only did that because we had to move our own things, and my dad from the past, he had a bad experience with moving companies where they would damage things, they would look in boxes, steal things. And then we had pets, we have 2 cats and 2 dogs. So we decided to move all of our things ourselves. But when I do decide to move to Canada, I'm focusing more on it's no more and then a 16-hour drive. If I have to sleep in my car or if I have to stay in a hotel overnight, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it because I have dogs. I don't know when I'll be moving to Canada. Could be 10 or 12 years from now. Hopefully my dogs are still alive. I know Scooby will be alive, but not Candy because Candy is 16 years old. Oh my gosh. I'm gonna cross that bridge when we get there. I'm sort of thinking in the Vancouver area because I am a gay person, and believe it or not, it's a cool coincidence that Vancouver is only a couple hours away from me. It's just across the border. I don't know where specifically I want to live. I don't know what neighborhood. I haven't thought about that, but I'm thinking I'll insert like clips here or pictures here. I'm thinking of something around this area. Like this section, because once you go towards the east side, closer to the Minnesota, New York area, that's where people start to, that's when people start to speak French, and it gets a lot of cold. It's a lot colder over there. Whereas on east, more on the west side, the weather is more of the same. So I don't think there's much for me to and I don't think there's much for me to acclimate there, because since I do live in Washington, the weather is more of the same in the Vancouver area. I don't know if I want to live in Vancouver. I just keep saying that because based on my research, Vancouver is only, a 3 or 4 hour drive away from me. But I do want to live like somewhere around the west side, if that's the right word for it. Because as I get older, I realize that the United States of America isn't very ideal in terms of healthcare. And then another thing too is that I live literally 1 hour away from an active volcano. Literally. It has not erupted since the 1800s, but it's still something that's on my mind, and I have crippling anxiety because of it. And no, I'm not being funny here. Like, I have anxiety because I live next to a volcano. Like, no, I have anxiety because I live next to a volcano. When I lived in Yelm, before we moved to Tennessee, I know it's a bit confusing, we were about 2.5 hours away from Mount Rainier, and we lived on a bit of a higher elevation, so we wouldn't get lahars. We would definitely get smoke if it did blow up, obviously, but we wouldn't get the mudslides because Mount Rainier has ice. The place where I live at, there's gonna be lahars if Mount Rainier ever does blow up. It'll be like Katrina, multiple feet of snow, ice, and water and debris. This house will probably be flooded. I think it will. When my parents decided to move back to Washington, I'm not going to go into detail why we moved back. I'll probably make another video and another time. But just long story short, like who would have thought? Let's build a nice suburban neighborhood and let's list this house for $500,000, something that's unreasonable, and let's sell it to people just so it could be in the future, it could or it could have not been flooded by a volcano that you live an hour away. Let's build a suburban neighborhood of 100 so many houses, and let's just test it. You know what I mean? Like, I kind of live in the Parkland/Puyallup area. I just say I live in Tacoma because that's like the main city, but I really live in the Parkland/Puyallup area. But there's 3 reasons why I want to move to Canada in the near future, because I live an hour away from an active volcano, and it's not a matter of when, it's not a matter of if, it's when. I'm not even joking with you, every 2 weeks or so, I'll Google, Mount Rainier predictions or Mount Rainier activity level, because even though, it's not, I don't think it's going to blow up anytime soon, but it's still an active volcano that still experiences earthquakes, and which that tells us that magma is literally flowing throughout the volcano. So every couple weeks, I go to I forgot what website it's called, but there's like United States Ecologically, I don't freaking know, where you can go on and then you can look at the activity status of a volcano. Yeah. I have anxiety because of it, just because I have so many goals in life that I want to complete, and the thought of not being in control of dying is one of my biggest fears. I mean, getting sick, car accident, but something like a volcano, that is horrific. That's like dying because of a mass shooting. That is horrific. Like, oh, how did you die? Oh yeah, I died because a volcano killed me. I drowned in the debris of all the water. That's horrific. I'm not saying it like, oh, just to be funny. I want to move to Canada because I live next to a volcano. 2, I want free healthcare. 3, because I'm a lesbian, and there's a huge gay population around in the Vancouver area. And then even 2, with healthcare, I've done my own research that Canada isn't necessarily a free land of free healthcare, because you have to pay higher in taxes. It's a lot more expensive than living where I am right now. But you get free basic health care, where you can go to the eye doctor and get your eyes checked for free. You can go to the dentist and get a couple of cavities removed. But in terms of, like cosmetic or anything extra, you have to pay for. But it's not a pain, if you, like every 6 months or a year, it's recommended that you go to the dentist or go to the eye doctor. And if you live in Canada, it's for free. And then anything extra you have to pay for, which makes sense. Whereas in America, you don't get anything for free. You have to pay for everything. And with me, I have health conditions of empty sella syndrome and reactive hypoglycemia. And then I have sinus tachycardia, if that's how you pronounce it correctly. And I just dream about moving to Canada a lot. The only stipulation for me is I have to be in a relationship, because it is scary moving, but it's more scarier moving to a different country, because I think you have to get a new social security number because you live in a new country. I think you have to get a different citizenship. I'm stuttering so hard because I have a US citizenship. I have to get a Canadian one. It's just so stressful. The only way that I'm doing it is if I have someone to go with me. I'm not doing it if I'm rich. I'm not doing it. The only way that I'm doing it is if I find someone who loves me back. If I find love. That's the only way. And then 2, if they agree with it as well. Because Canada is only a couple hours away from me, especially Vancouver. Around the British Columbia. Is that what the province is called? On the west side, I believe. I want to live like around that area. Just because it's easier to move and the weather is more of the same, so there's not a lot of acclimation for my body to do. And I am far away from a volcano. Even if Mount Rainier does erupt, you probably get some smoke, but you're too far away for you to be affected. Dying in a natural disaster, to me, in my opinion, is one of my biggest fears. I'd rather be murdered. I'd rather be shot to death and then, dying because I drowned in the Lahar or something. You know what I mean? Because that's just not something that you can control. We don't know when the volcano is going to erupt. We just don't know. And sometimes there is no warnings, it'll just erupt. But sometimes there is, because even when Mount St. Helens erupted a couple months before the eruption, that Mount St. Helens had a swarm of earthquakes of like 6.0 or something like that. And then it just erupted. So I'm sure that if Mount Rainier does erupt, it'll show signs of it beforehand. But even then, I live with my parents, and I even had this talk with my dad, like, oh, if Mount Rainier ever blows up and on the news it comes up, it's been showing signs, and people gave us, a 2 week notice that the volcano is going to erupt anywhere from 2 weeks to a month from now. And my dad's like, I'm gonna stay here. This is my home. I ain't moving anywhere. If that thing blows up, I'm gonna die with it. And then I talked to my mom with it, and she doesn't believe that it's gonna affect us, even though we literally live in the path of where the lahar, if it ever, because I've looked up pictures and AI, scenarios, and we literally live in the path of, if it does erupt, we are in the path of the lahar, literally in the path. We are in the yellow. We're not in the red, thank God. We're in the yellow of the path. And if my parents are long gone, I will definitely sell this house and move around Yelm or Lacey. That's where I lived before. Because even if the volcano does erupt and I live in Lacey, yeah, I'll get smoke. Yeah, I can't go outside for a couple of weeks. But Lacey lives on a higher elevation from Mount Rainier, and it's not in the path. I think we would probably get some lahars, but it won't be, multiple, feet. It'll probably be maybe a couple inches. Whereas the place where I live now, it's definitely a cause of concern. I mean, for me as a hypochondriac, I don't know if I'll ever find love. I just know that I'm definitely moving out of this house when I do have the financial means. Even if I don't have anyone, I am moving as is. It's either I'm moving to Lacey or I'm moving to Olympia, because that's way far away from the volcano, and I don't want to live in Yakima, or Eastern. Is that part of Eastern Washington? I don't want to live, in the middle of nowhere. I do want to live somewhere in the city, so I'm thinking of Lacey or Olympia. But if I do find the love of my life, I'll convince her to move to Canada with me. That's the goal, But if that doesn't happen, I have to settle moving a couple hours away from here, somewhere in Washington, probably in Lacey or Olympia. I just wanted to put this out there that it's on my bucket list that I'm moving to Canada. And if any of you have any suggestions down below, just comment them or give me any advice. Best case scenario is that I fall in love and this whole YouTube thing works out. I become famous and I get some kind of income off of it, and I become financially independent, and I move to Canada. I take my dogs and I move somewhere in the British Columbia area, and I be gay. I live my life and I just be gay. I'm just doing my thing. I don't feel safe living in the United States. Not just because of the volcano, but just in general, I don't like living in the United States. As I get older, the thought of living in Canada, I'm basically that meme. I'll insert that meme where that guy turns around and he looks at that girl when he himself has a girlfriend. That's literally how I feel right now. Like I'm that guy looking at another girl. That is how I feel. And then 2, I want to live around the British Columbia area because they speak English and it won't be a huge culture shock to me. Yeah, let me just talk about the fact that I'm moving to Canada with my 150 subscribers. Comment down below if you could, if you had one wish, if money wasn't a concern to you, where would you like to live? And it's really comedic that when I was a kid, I had this dream of, I'm going to become famous and move to Hollywood. Some part of that is true because I do still want to become famous doing YouTube. Somewhere along the line, me moving to California has changed a lot. I remember being in high school and still wanting to move to California, to Los Angeles. I believe that started to change about a year or two ago. Just as you get older, you become wiser and you start thinking about money, climate change. There's too many people. And then you start thinking about the United States of America. Then you start thinking about your health and your dogs. And then you think about, oh, New York is fun. I always want to go to New York. You know what I mean, right? And then if you do decide to move, go someplace new, don't. If I want to move, I'm moving out of the United States. Canada is the only place that I can think of where I want to move. I don't want to move to someplace in Asia just because, again, that's too freaking far. I will probably have to start fresh. I have to get rid of my guitar, get rid of my piano, get rid of my computer because I can't take that on an airplane. And if I have dogs, I can't have them on an airplane because my dogs are big. They're big dogs. And somewhere in Europe, there's no place in Europe that I would like to live. And me being gay, a lot of European countries don't like gay people, except from Paris. But even then, I don't speak their language. So it'll be a huge culture shock. And again, I'll have to fly there, which I don't want to. And just thinking out of all the other countries, Canada seems only the choice for me just because I am going to keep my dogs. I'm always going to be a dog person. I would like to move within one day. I don't want to go on an airplane, then stay in a hotel, go on another airplane, stay in a hotel. I want to move to my new house in one day. I want to drive there and just be there. I don't want to stay in a hotel ever again. I don't want to sleep in a car ever again. I just want to move there. And I want to keep my things, I have no idea if I'm going to hire a moving company. I don't know, man. I have no idea. But I do know one thing is that if I do fall in love, but I do know this one thing. If I do fall in love, I'm moving to Canada. If I don't fall in love, I am going to move, but I'll probably be moving somewhere in Lacey. That's only an hour away. I'm still be living in the United States to be less of a change. I don't have to go through all this troubles of changing my social security number and going through all that. It's going to be a lot less stressful. I just say that I'm only going to move to Canada if both of my parents are long gone and I fall in love and I have some sort of income. Only because it's a big change, and I do have two friends here, Cheyenne and Nick, but we never hang out. Like Cheyenne, we haven't hung out in 6 years in person. Same thing with Nick. I haven't seen him since I graduated high school. And it's almost as if, what's the point of having friends if you can't even see them at all? And it's not going to be much of a difference anyway if I do move to a different country. Because when I do talk to my friends, it's over the phone. We literally never talk to each other in person. We never hang out. So nothing will ever change with our relationship. I think right now I'm just ranting about nonsense. This video could have easily been 5 minutes long of, yeah, I'm moving to Canada because I live next to a volcano and I'm gay. I want free healthcare. Okay, goodbye. I mean, that's what it is, man. It's true, and I already have it planned out. It's crazy that when both my parents are gone, whatever they have left in their bank account, whatever they have left, sell this house because it is scary. Because right now I'm working a part-time job. I know I finally have a job right now, and it's just scary because I live off of my parents, not because I want to, but because I have to. And it's just scary that when they pass away, will I become homeless? What will happen? It's just something that I think about. So I just thought about downsizing. I just thought because I don't want to say how much money my parents make or how much this house is, but you guys could probably do the math based on what the average house is in Washington is. And I done the math and I just thought about it of selling this house. And my dad, he has 3 cars. I could sell 2 of them and only keep one. And my dad, he somehow has 3 shotguns, snipers, but yet he doesn't shoot them. He just likes to collect guns, and that's worth money. So I thought about what if I sell this? What if I sell this and I downsize? Maybe I buy a used house, a 1-bedroom house, because people make, like literally they do make 1-bedroom houses or 2-bedroom houses. I just thought or maybe worst case scenario, if money is short, I'll have to move into apartment because rent here, paying off the mortgage, is almost $4,000 a month. Actually, it's almost about 4,000, because just the house alone is over 30,000 plus light, water, and that's probably another $1,000 right there. So I just thought about what would happen, because my dad, he has life insurance, and he told us that I could use it to pay off the house, and I just thought about taking that money and selling this house, and just as I get older, I just start thinking a lot about my future because I have no other siblings. I don't really have any friends to rely on, if I can live with them. My parents are not getting any older. My dad has cancer. My mom is not getting any older as well. So I'm just thinking about these things. How can I save money? How there's things that, what can I do better? I've been thinking a lot about my life in terms of financial reasons, just because of my lack of job experience and what I am right now. I don't have the best relationship with my parents just because of who I am. If best case scenario is I live on my own, but I just can't because I have to live with my parents in order to survive. And it is scary because I have health conditions and I have low blood sugar. There's been 2 incidents so far where I passed out because I had low blood sugar, and luckily my mom was home, and I was literally on the floor almost paralyzed. I couldn't even move. My blood sugar was so low. She gave me lemons, like she squirted a couple of lemon slices into my mouth, and that raised my blood sugar. So the thought of living by myself, even if in an apartment, scares me, because what if I fall down because I have low blood sugar? And then what? I just die? And then what about my dogs? No one's going to help me. Because when you live in an apartment, no one cares. Oh, I haven't seen this person in a week or 2. No one really knocks on anybody's door anymore. I could be dead in there for a couple of months. So I just think about, what about when I do leave Canada? I can't go to Canada by myself just because I have low blood sugar. I have to have someone live with me. And then even with Cheyenne, we don't hang out. We haven't talked to each other in person in 7 years or 5 years or something. I can't live with her because she has her own life right now. Maybe I could, maybe if I help, pay rent, but maybe we can get a place of our own. But even then, that's not really my goal because I want to live with someone who I love, someone. I don't want to feel like I'm a burden because she has her own family, she has her own pets. And my dog, especially Scooby, he does not get along with other dogs. He's a mama's boy. He does not get along with other people as well. I wouldn't say he's a friendly dog. He's friendly to me. Okay? He's friendly to me. There's things that I realize as I get older that I have to start thinking about my future because knowing how much this house cost and just thinking about maybe downsizing, I could probably save a lot of money. And it's just something that I've been thinking about. And two, I live next to a volcano. So anyway, no matter how insane you may be, there's always someone out there to complete the insanity. Goodbye.